listening to the Betmaker Show. This is the NFL Super Bowl preview for Monday, February 3rd, 2020. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
Time to go to the other side of the counter, wrapping up football, the NFL, the season in the books, the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions, Brian Blessing and Bruce Marshall in Las Vegas. We were watching the game together yesterday, Bruce, and for the longest time, we're watching what the Niners were doing. I remember saying to you at halftime, they're playing the game the way the Niners wanted to play the game. And sure enough, looked like they came out, they made the right adjustments, have the 10-point lead. And then a play or two certainly can change any football game. But it was one of those things where San Francisco kind of got away from what they were doing best, and Mahomes made some big plays. And before you know it, I mean, you're going to the fourth quarter. In a million years, you're saying there's no way the Chiefs are winning that game by 11.
I know, and I think the key sequence really was when the game was 20-10 and the Niners made that interception with about 12 minutes left. They looked in complete control then, but they really needed to unfurl a drive that took some time off the clock right at that point, and they really had to drive a little bit and eat up the clock. They were simply giving the ball back to Mahomes too quickly in the fourth quarter, and even as good as your defense is, you can't continue to tempt fate like that the way the 49ers were doing. And give credit to Kansas City's defense, which rose up to help the Chiefs big time in the AFC Championship game, and did it again yesterday. So I think they're sort of the unsung heroes of this thing, or Kansas City's defense that all of a sudden shut down the 49ers. And there were a couple of plays there. I mean, the Niners, after the first Chief touchdown, Mostert had a first down run that looked like it was for about 20 yards. Yeah, only went for 5. Yeah.
And Jack said it, and he's right. I mean, the one that's in the highlight reel is the play over the top. All of a sudden, and then the Chiefs got a touchdown. Well, it was a little punch to the gut, but they're still up 3.
Yeah.
And to me, the play of the game was the play you just mentioned. On first down, Mostert gets 6 yards.
Yeah.
And then they come back and if Garoppolo throw, it gets batted down. He throws again, 3 and out.
Yeah.
For the life of me, why you didn't either run the ball again with Mostert or give the ball on another, the jet sweep or something to Deebo Samuel because they couldn't stop him. But clearly I thought that was a play that just screamed out, run the football, and then you kind of calm down and you're imposing your will. And it just smacked of panic to me, and I think Kansas City smelled it there, and they just killed him after that.
Yeah, that sequence really hurt them. And on that run on first down, Mostert looked like he was going to gain a lot more. And I thought, if they just got that first down there and they could have kept it going. But again, the Chiefs made adjustments there, and credit to them. And I agree that Garoppolo, they shouldn't have had him throwing on that second down. They were also not doing enough moving Garoppolo around in the pocket, I thought, when they had to throw later. And he had Deebo on what would have been a touchdown pass even when they were down by 4 there, and Deebo was behind everybody, and Garoppolo just overshot him. It was a very, very frustrating last 6 minutes for the Niners, because for 55 minutes or so in that game, it went really according to plan for San Francisco, but you just can't give Mahomes that many chances. And again, the credit goes to the Chief defense, I think.
Yeah, clearly, any game, anything can happen, but there's just something about this game where if it's nerves, Bruce, I think maybe part of it is, they warm up and then they're out on the field for with all the pregame nonsense and everything. I think these guys warm up and then they're standing around so long, whatever it is. These Super Bowls, to me, historically, and I think it's more than that, I think it's a sample size that's growing. The first half total was 27. It got bet down, didn't get there. But literally the first quarter, the first 2 or 3 series for both these teams, I think, there's nerves. I think the warming up and then stopping doesn't help. The slow start seems to be the thing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it took these teams a while to warm up for sure, and for this game to get a little bit of flow going. The Niners moved okay their first drive, had to settle for 3, and the Chiefs were 3 and out. It was, sort of like, the Patriots and Rams last year. similar a bit. The Patriots had a little bit of an advance, ended with an interception, but then nothing else happened in the first quarter in that game last year. The outlier might be that Patriots-Eagles game 2 years ago that went overdrive right from the start. In retrospect, that was really quite a game 2 years ago. What we had with the Patriots and Eagles, and these last two, even though it got a little exciting in the last 5 minutes last night, I don't think it was as good a game as what we saw 2 years ago with the Eagles and Pats.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. All right, Bruce, as we put a lid on football, obviously the first thing that happens all week long, I mean, here, even in Vegas, they've started taking entries for next year's Super Contest over at the Superbook. It's unbelievable now that it's just immediately, it used to be, okay, here are the odds for next year's season, and people and tourists are here in Vegas, but people end the season and maybe make a bet for next year. But it's earlier and earlier. But the Chiefs are the 5-1 favorite to repeat. Ravens and Niners are 8-1. Saints 10-1. That'll be interesting. We'll see what Breeze ends up doing. Patriots at 14-1, waiting on Tom Brady. The Steelers, just a mash unit this year, 16-1. The Cowboys, I'll tell you, they had to take a big bet on the Cowboys because I'd seen 20 a lot of places. Some places here in Vegas, the Cowboys are at 12-1. But in terms of, it's like, to me in hockey, they say, well, who do you like to win the Stanley Cup? I'm like, I don't know. Tell me. I waited the trade deadline. I want to know who am I going to battle with. And I think the same thing could be said here with the draft and in free agency. But I mean, if you were going to stick your toe in the water, teams maybe that showed you something that have to learn how to do it at nice prices. I mean, you can see Tennessee and a team like the Bills in that 40-1 range are interesting. The Vikings at 25-1. They had the running game. I think maybe you take a little sprinkle with something you think's an overlaid price that for no reason before they ever take the field would come down 10, 15 points.
Yeah, you look for teams that maybe the 49er example last year that had their quarterback get hurt early in the year and
right.
Kind of went off track. So, I mean, Pittsburgh certainly fits that narrative. I don't want to throw Detroit in there, but Detroit would have that case too. Pittsburgh would come right to mind there. I don't think teams that had quarterbacks, all the ones that had quarterbacks get hurt, like Detroit, Jacksonville, Carolina. They're all in various stages of rebuild there. So I'm not sure it would apply to them. Pittsburgh is kind of interesting there in the AFC because they would figure to be competitive with everybody with Big Ben in there. And that was a championship caliber defense. So they're one that would jump to mind. In the NFC, maybe Atlanta at the end of the season. The second half of the season, they were playing as good as anybody in the NFC. And that was how people thought the Falcons would play at the start. Now, they've kept the band together there, at least staff-wise. And, Matt Ryan is still capable, and Julio Jones are still there. So that's a team I might take a look at. But it's way too soon. I mean, you can do it for fun right now, but we've got all the offseason and all the free agency stuff coming, and then you get to the draft. The free agency stuff, very important. And topping in the list is the Patriots, but not just them. You've got some other quarterback decisions to be made in a variety of places, including the Chargers, including Indianapolis, and various others. So you just really have to wait for the free agency stuff to shake out.
Hey, I'll throw a home run at you just for giggles. Because you were very high on these guys before the season started. And the only reason I'm saying this, okay, Daniel Jones takes over for the Giants. You've got Saquon Barkley. If they have a good offseason, and the only reason I would say it, you got to be in it to win it. And that was the Cowboys last year. It was the Eagles this year. And we know in the NFC East, no one knows how to repeat. So it's probably the Giants' turn to win the NFC East, which would put them in with a puncher's chance, needing to win 3 games at 80-1. It might not be the craziest play in the world.
Well, maybe not. They got another Belichick assistant in there, Joe Judge, now the new head coach. But Barkley, Ingram, Golden Tate, Shepard, and, of course, Daniel Jones, like you said. So there's the makings of a pretty good offense there. By the way, one note on these coaches things. We hear a lot about Belichick and his disciples. Andy Reid's group of disciples has fared much better. And so I think that's something we got to look at if you're looking for new coaches. Those guys who have coached under Reed seem to be doing much better than the guys who were under Belichick.
You're just being nice to me. You're giving me hope. Sean McDermott and the Bills, he's out of that Andy Reid tree.
He is, and Matt Nagy and a variety of others are too. So there. And by the way, there's another team, the Bears. After last year, we thought, hey, they're close, but the quarterback situation there, the Brady thing, though, very, very interesting because he could, who knows where he ends up. But,
well, there was a report, Bruce. They were on Super Bowl Sunday saying that if he gets to free agency, the Raiders were going to actively pursue Tom Brady. With the move here to Vegas and the new stadium. And last week we're doing the Super Bowl prop show, and around town, they're making it like it was way more than a rumor. And where I'm sitting doing this, literally, it would be less than a quarter, about a half a mile from where I'm sitting, as a place called the Summit. Now, that's a fancy neighborhood. I ain't living in that neighborhood, but I'm close to it. But there was a report Tom Brady was buying a house up in the Summit last week. And a lot of people were saying that was more than just a rumor.
Well, we'll see. I don't think Brady knows where he's going to end up next year. But a lot of these he might be just moving. I know they're selling their house up in New England there. And there's a lot of different rumors out there. But guys could end up moving somewhere else and playing. He's got, I think, 2 more years probably anyway. And it's for him, it's just who's going to pay up. And I think he's asking top dollar for 2 more years. And the Patriots, he's been playing under market for them for a while. So I'd still say they're the favorite because I would have a hard time believing Bob Kraft wouldn't pay up. And they don't have a ready-made successor there like the Niners had with Joe Montana, with Steve Young there, and the Colts with Peyton Manning with Andrew Luck coming in. So, we'll see. But it could go various directions. The Raiders certainly are one that are being mentioned.
He's Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet. I'm Brian Blessing. There we go. We put a lid on it for you. The NFL season is officially in the jar, and we're looking ahead to next year already.
Betmaker, let's make some money tonight.
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com, and reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and the Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.